I want to say hello to all of you from around the world. I want to welcome you again to another fantastic Soulivity Today, where we are going to be talking about some great and amazing things for you. I'm not going to share it just yet because I want to make sure that I introduce to you my very, very special and amazing co-host, Sheila Applegate and Dr. Chanel DeGuzman. Good morning to both of you.
Hello, Brian.
Good morning,
and
Brian.
Chanel.
I didn't know who you were going to introduce. I'm like, is there somebody else on the air?
Someone special. That's us.
Oh, man. Well,
That's
as all
us.
of you know, listen, we're broadcasting live from our studios right here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. I'm so glad that both of you are here with me today because we have this topic today I'm really excited about, as you guys know. This is something that is, I think, really necessary right now. We'll tell you why in a second. But how has your weeks been? Chanel, I think you've got something special coming up on the weekend, right?
Yeah, so I was sharing that there is a tad bit of pressure mounting for my son's high school graduation open house, which is this Sunday, the 20th, in our backyard. And so we'll be having, about 80 some people filed through between 3 and 8 p.m. And so I'm just super excited and, doing all those last minute details that have to be done. So, but it's a blessing. So.
What
Thanks for
about
asking.
you? Oh no, and you're gonna rock it. It's gonna be
Thank
fun.
you.
Take lots of
Yeah.
pictures, by the way, so we can see them.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
I love what
Yeah,
you're
go ahead, Sheila.
doing. I just want to say I love the open house idea. I wish I had thought of that for my kids because then you get time to talk to everyone. You get to invite everyone, but there's this flow and you get to have a little bit of time with everyone. So I think that's awesome. You're going to have a
Absolutely.
great
Thanks.
time.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Sheila, what about you? Any special plans coming up for you?
Well, you know what? It's been really busy lately, but tomorrow is a Friday and Zach and I have adventure days on Fridays. So we take Fridays off in the summer to do a road trip. But we don't know what we're doing tomorrow, so it's going to be a real adventure. So I'll tell
That's
you
so
when I come back.
cool.
I
That is
love
so
that.
cool.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll be somewhere exciting.
I'm trying to think about what I'm going to be doing this weekend. It's like, I'll probably just be doing something mundane like yard work or something.
But that's fun. You'll remember it in the
Those
winter and be like,
necessary things.
remember?
It keeps you in good standing in the house, Brian.
Well, that's true. I have noticed that we have more like beautiful animals coming around, like not like squirrels or anything. They're always around, but like butterflies. Ladybugs, by some saw some, a couple of ladybugs. Good luck. So I'm like, well,
Yeah.
need some new shoes. Anyway, y'all, let's get to today's show. Over the last few days, residents of Maui are still recovering from the devastating fires there. The death toll has risen to 110. The search continues for loved ones who are missing. And the debate about what caused it and how it could have been prevented is ongoing right now. But there were also signs of hope and resilience. According to AP, public schools undamaged by the fires are reopening as major roads are being cleared for traffic. And displaced students who enroll at these specific campuses can access services such as meals and counseling. It seems that the community is coming together to support each other. These are just a few signs of how Hawaiian culture and tradition are built on century-old practices, which set the foundation for what community is and how it functions. This Aloha Spirit, which means more than hello and goodbye, is something that is real, whole, and wonderful. So today, with my beautiful co-host, we're going to take a deeper look at it today. And hopefully, you'll take the Aloha Spirit with you wherever you go. Now, ladies, here's a clip from Nalani Kamalu, a founder of a Hawaiian charter school there in Maui, in a TED Talk, talking more about the true meaning of aloha. Let's take a look.
O nauna ka hala me ka lehua, e halele hua no ia na ka noe. O ka uno ia e ano inei, e ane hoi o ka hiki mai. A hiki mai no o ko, a hiki puno me ke aloha. Aloha e, aloha e, aloha e. Aloha. Anoi lani keia no kane o he oa humayau a haoli au I ke launa pu ana mai o kako. Hi, I'm Noelani. And I'm a Hawaiian. The fact that I'm able to stand here today proud and say that is something I owe to a lot of people who fought long and hard for me able to do that. Because it wasn't always like that. For a time, Hawaiians lost their way because they were told that their language, their culture, and practically their very existence was worthless. You see, we not only had our Hawaiian kingdom overthrown, our cultural practices were banned. Hula was banned. Hawaiian language was outlawed. It was not allowed to be taught in schools. In fact, there's a segment of the population that still refuses to be identified as Native Hawaiian and is ashamed of their heritage. The fact that I can stand here today and introduce myself in Hawaiian is owed to a period of history called the Hawaiian Renaissance in the 1970s. Amongst other events, it included the protests of the bombing of Kaho'olawe by the United States Navy, the inception of the Merry Monarch Hula Festival competition, and the launching of Hokulea, the first Polynesian double-hulled voyaging canoe to set sail in centuries. In 1976, Hokulea set sail from Hawaii to Tahiti, and after 32 days at sea, was greeted by thousands of people on the beach of Papua to Tahiti. She became a beacon of hope and pride, not only for Hawaiians, but Polynesians in general, because Hokulea and her crew demonstrated not only the intellect, but the spirit of our ancestors, and it reinstated that pride. In fact, there were so many people that showed up on the beach to show their aloha for her. They wanted to touch her and try and get on board. They nearly sank her. Yeah, you imagine trying to kick people off as you're trying to greet them. In 2014, Hokulea embarked on a 3-year voyage around the world.
Our ancestors not were only just great navigators, they're great stewards of these islands. The time that the first Europeans came, the journals of Captain Cook talked about, large populations, maybe 800,000. That's the median. It could be even higher. It's approaching maybe the numbers of people that are living on Hawaii today. They figured it out, how to live well on these islands, and I think that is the challenge of the time for planet Earth and all of humanity. It's to figure that out. How are you going to do that? Hokulea is pulling us into a direction of asking the question, are you going to be responsible and are you going to take action? Are you going to do something with what you have? You got a voyaging canoe.
So in 1995, I was a young girl on the shores of Ke'ehi Oahu, and I had the opportunity with my fellow classmates to welcome Hokulea home for one of her deep sea voyages with several other Polynesian canoes. At that moment, I knew Hokulea wasn't my future. Several years later, I had the opportunity to sail on Hokulea from Hawaii to Tahiti on her worldwide voyage, and subsequently a few more legs. The name of the voyage was Malama Honua, and I can tell you it was an amazing experience. Malama Honua literally translates to caring for the earth. But based on my voyaging experiences and what I've been able to see around the world, I can tell you that that translation does not do the intent or spirit of the voyage any justice. In fact, to quote a very recent Star Trek episode, translation is not the essence of understanding. Hokulea was Google tracked, and her position was broadcast on the internet for everyone to see. So if you wanted to know where she was, you could find out. That made our voyage as crew members very different to prior voyages in Hokulea's history. One of the legs we did took us across the Okeechobee Waterway in Florida. And because we were Google tracked, everywhere there was a bridge, a lock, or anywhere that the waterway came close to the road, there were people waving, shouting, holding signs, hoping just to get a glimpse of Hokulea. See, there's a lot of Hawaiians in Florida. But they were just hoping to get a glimpse of Hokulea, not just because she's an amazing canoe, but because of what she represents. She represents home and the spirit that she brings with her, that spirit of aloha, and they wanted to come and show their aloha for her. So after we got out of the waterway, we proceeded up the East Coast via the intercoastal waterways. We had a series of stops planned out, but we also had backup stops in case we didn't make it as far as we needed to for the day. One of those backup stops was Indian Harbor, Florida. And there were people on the dock waiting for us. By the time we tied up, we were given shelter, food, and transportation. A community came together to show aloha not only for the canoe, but for strangers. We didn't know them. For a crew they didn't even know. As a result, we stayed in Indian Harbor a little longer. We had an impromptu celebration. We came together, we shared stories, songs, ate food, watched videos, and I had the opportunity to talk to a few of the Polynesian attendees in particular. They told me that while they knew about Polynesian cousin or friend down the road, they had not come together like this until the canoe showed up. And ultimately, what I'm getting at is the collection of experiences that I had in Florida and Indian Harbor in particular is when I really started to understand what we were doing. Because while Malama Honua means to care for the earth, and we thought we're sailing around with this message of protecting the planet and caring for the planet, we were really sailing around with the message of aloha. See, aloha doesn't just mean hello and goodbye. It's not a word you can look up in the dictionary. Although if you do it, you'll find a really long paragraph of definitions. Aloha is something you have to actually experience. I feel that it was that aloha that the indigenous cultures around the world were a little bit more receptive to. Because whenever we had the opportunity to interact with a local tribe or indigenous culture, we tried our best to ask permission to come ashore, probably with an oli or a chant like I opened with today. And you know what they told us? No one had ever asked before. They were very receptive and appreciative of the aloha that we showed them and the respect we had for them. And it started a dialogue. We were able to communicate with them. And even though we're very special and unique around the world, and we all have our special differences, common threads began to emerge of aloha and respect and pono, which is balance for both our relationships and actually our relationship with the aina, the land itself.
Whoo! Got goosebumps, y'all. Got goosebumps over here. Aloha Spirit. So important. Sheila, I'm going to go to you first. Couple of questions. I mean, I know we're going to get into how Aloha Spirit is influencing the victims of the Maui fires, but just want to ask you first about your feelings about all of this time right now that's happening in Maui right now. Because, I mean, yeah, we know about the fires, we know about the devastation, but there seems to be another side to this, right?
Right. So, like you said, we can get into the individual stories later, but I do have my nephew, Sean, in Lahaina, who had escaped. So he is sharing stories right from the land and his experience with me. But the bigger picture, which I think you asked me to start with, to me, we've seen, and I've said it over different shows, there's a rising up of that which has been buried and unhealthy in our societies and in our earth as we transform and move into a new way of relating to Mother Earth and to each other. And the buried energy of suppression and of the environmental abuse that we've been doing came out in rampant form in Maui. And in that space, there are the people that can hold the truth. So just like that boat, when the canoes went around the world bringing this message, I think the fires do as well, as we remember and we get to witness the true experience of what aloha is
Yeah,
and the need to come together for our earth.
I love that. I love that. What about you, Chanel? What are you thinking about this right now?
Well, for me, it's hard, honestly, to really grasp the gravity of the devastation. And Sheila, I can certainly respect your perspective of, you said, the buried energy and suppression, I believe, that basically is emerging. Like it's been buried and now it's, you know, pushing through. I can't speak to that, but overall, it's because I'm so far removed. You can donate, you can do certain things, you can pray, but until I walk and see, it is hard for me to connect. Um, but the collective energy from wherever you are, obviously, we're sending those healing waves, we're sending those good vibrations, to the people of Maui, all over Hawaii. But what it also does for me is gives me those glimpses of, Brian, what you talked about, the resiliency and the
Yeah,
hope that the people are expressing, because that is a part of their cultural identity. It's
yeah,
inherent in the land, it's inherent in the hearts and the souls of the people. And you can see evidence of that. And like you said, I know we'll be talking about that, but big picture, it's so daunting. Sometimes I just feel like I just, you know, I want to walk it. I need to see and feel it up
yeah,
close, if
yeah. Good
that
point.
makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, listen, this is um 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 I'm kind of torn to a certain degree. I mean, I get the deeper, real meaning of what this aloha spirit means. I see and I've read about how it's starting to show up, or how it's been showing up all along, even during the fires. The people there were taking care of each other and making sure
Mhm.
everybody who they could see was going to be okay. And at the same time, there's other things like the centuries old tree that was part of that whole community that got completely
Mhm.
singed, and not knowing whether or not it's actually going to come back or not, praying, and I've been like sending energy, because that was a marker for that whole community. I mean, it was huge. The
Mhm.
tree was huge. It was like 3 or 4 or 5 house, big mansion sized, in terms of area. I mean, it was huge. And again, it
Mhm.
meant a lot to them. So I get that. I mean, I really, really, really do. I think it's just, I think the importance of this tribute today to them and the Aloha Spirit is just kind of like a reminder that there's more than the eye can see a lot of times,
Mhm.
and that there's
Mhm.
this undercurrent of mind, body, spirit that the Aloha Spirit means. I mean, we just put into a chat the true meaning of Aloha Spirit from the Center of Labor Education and Research from the University of Hawaii in Oahu, um, where they're talking about Aloha Spirit and what it is. And it's the coordination of mind and heart within each person. It brings each person to the self. Each person must think and emote good feelings to each other. Uh, um, and that it goes into all these different things of, like, each letter means something. It's like an anagram, where meaning kindness to be expressed with tenderness, unity to be expressed with harmony, agreeable meaning agreeable to be expressed with pleasantness, humility to be expressed with modesty, and patience to be expressed with perseverance. I mean, Sheila.
and
That's a
it's law. It's
yeah,
actually
right.
law. Like it's the foundation of their laws and their government as well in the in the traditional way.
I
Which
mean, like, wow.
right. And it not only is
Well,
it like in the doctrine, but it's actively being honored.
it's a lived experience. It's a lived identity. And what I really like about all of that, Brian, too, is it's with no obligation in return. So mutual regard
Right.
and affection with no obligation in return. So if you say hello to me, or if you, put your hand on my back, or just extend some warmth to me, there's no obligation for reciprocity. It's just a giving of who you are, of love, and all those wonderful things you just mentioned, with abundance,
Right.
with no regard for any obligation in return.
You know, I was blown away when I read this. Blown away. Blown away. Listen, we're going to take a short break, but don't worry, we got even more of talking about the Aloha Spirit. And going to break, I'm going to play another video of Nolani Kamalu talking more about the Aloha Spirit. So we'll see you back on the other side.
It's that same aloha that allowed me to grow up in Hawaii and learn who I am as a Hawaiian. Because you see, the only way I was able to get here today is the aloha of countless educators, mentors, and family members who dedicated a lot of their time in aloha so I could do this. In fact, I still have lunch with some of my elementary school teachers to this day. Now I have the opportunity to pay it forward. I work in a Hawaiian-focused charter school. I have the opportunity to talk to students about who they are and establish that guiding principle and value, aloha. And talked about how they're related to the aina itself, the land, and establish that aloha for it. And I would actually say that aloha has probably played a larger role in my career as an educator than any math lesson I ever taught. And we've actually come full circle in many other ways. We not only teach language in the schools now, but hula, which was banned, is now celebrated. In fact, it's taught in prisons. And those people who lost their way, maybe they didn't have the same opportunity as me, are now able to learn hula in the prisons and learn more about who they are. It's because hula is not just a performance that looks pretty. It's a genealogy. It's a story. Sometimes it's a lesson. And they're actually able to receive the aloha from the teachers who take their time to spend it with them. And for some of them, maybe the first time they've received that aloha. So they're able to better understand aloha and who they are. An inmate at the San Quentin prison was recently quoted as saying, "Pre-hula, I was a really dark person, but hula really springboarded it for me. I think had I not found myself spiritually, I still would be searching." To be fair, aloha can be a difficult thing to do. You have to start by knowing who and what you are. And to quote my mentor, Nainoa Thompson, we can't care for something we don't understand. For Hawaiians, that understanding begins with our mo'okuauhou, which is our genealogy. We trace our roots back to Wakea and Ho'ohokukalani, who were parents to a stillborn child that they named Haloa Nakalau Kapalili. Haloa for short. They planted Haloa in the aina, in the land, and he grew to become the first kalo, the first taro plant. Their second child, they also named Haloa, became the first Hawaiian. And so in this mo'olelo, which means story, we've already established a cyclical relationship of aloha, care, and pono, which is balance. You see, our eldest sibling cares for us, but only if we take care of him and where he lives. And so really, Hawaiians were already eco-friendly well before the modern day movements. And actually, I would say that going forward, society will probably start to look backwards and start to embrace the indigenous knowledge and values of all of the indigenous peoples throughout the world. In fact, just harnessing wind and wave energy is probably more in line with an indigenous way of thinking, of working with the environment versus against it. And so, this is my charge to you. Find a little aloha in all you do, in your relationships, in your community, and your service. If we all take the time to find a little bit of aloha, then maybe we'll find pono. In the oral traditions of my culture, I'll end with a song about my roots as a Hawaiian. Mai ka pi'ina akala iha e ai ka mole olu hole hua heia ko kamae he mama aloha na aloha a Hawaii ku'ukulaiwi mai na kupuna mai ha'ohe mea nana e ku'ai I ke vea ku'umawiwi e ola I ku'ula hui ke kuriana o ka oiwi o ka I makana o lelo he Hawaii mamo he Hawaii mamo aloha.
6 years ago when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit soulivity.com now.
We're back with more here on Soulivity Today. We're talking about the Aloha Spirit, our tribute to the residents of Maui and the people of Hawaii. Sheila, you had something very important to talk about with your family member who lives in Maui, correct? They're in Maui.
In Lahaina, yeah.
In Lahaina, in the town that was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us, some of the experiences that he shared with you?
Yes. And as I'm preparing to say this, I'm realizing I didn't ask his permission, so I won't use names and I'll be, but it is important. So I'm talking about my perspective of it because Dr. Chanel, you were mentioning how it's hard to feel it sometimes when you're just listening to it on the news and there may be a disconnect. One of the things I've done is when I search it, I search for stories not in the news, but just of people's stories that come up. And that's given me a deeper connection. But for me, so this is, a soul nephew, a friend that I've grown up with, and he's called me Aunt Sheila since he was young. But there was this time where we didn't know the first night where his mom reached out, not knowing if he was alive, knowing that the Red Cross had said that his house was burnt to the ground along with the whole area, and we didn't know where he was. So there's that experience that then when we find out that he escaped into the mountains, it's exactly like what was spoken earlier, like, okay, he's alive. Nothing else matters. That's it. He got out with his dogs. He's alive. And then there's this realization that he escaped into the mountains. He didn't know where he was. He's a young man with 2 dogs and only his truck. And the fires are still going beneath him. He's watching them. Wow. So what happens next? And in that devastation, there's still this, I'm okay, Mom. I'm a survivor. I know what to do. And the next thing we hear, I think a few hours later, the next day, he's driven down the mountain to see where he is, and he's found a small Walmart. And in the store, as they're on the phone with him, and he's kind of trying to process what he needs to survive, he starts talking to people in the store, and they've decided to team up because they're in the same boat. So now there's a community of 3 or 4 that are going to look out for each other. And then the next day, the new news is that an older couple has taken him in for a couple days and said he could stay in their home for a couple days. And then a friend of a friend has let him stay in the next home, given him a bed for a couple days. And there's this up and down of complete devastation to him sharing more and more about how his heart is opening. He feels so connected to the community. He's helping out even as he's in devastation. And then the news, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he texted me and he's a chef in a hotel there that has been supporting people. And finally, they had a room that he could come to with his dogs to live in the hotel for a period of time as he cooks for the people in the community. So no longer is it a hotel for tourists, it's they're cooking for the people who have no food, no money. And he's so excited to be in that space of turning it around. And I was talking to him about how, the phoenix rising, right? And I know I hadn't really paid attention. Everyone was saying that, but for himself, because he feels in some ways better than he ever has, there's those highs of how much love and open-heartedness there is and how much trauma and sadness and grief going on. He texted me a picture of himself holding a bag that says Maui Rising with a phoenix. And I have to tell you, I have not seen his face so delighted, so pure, so happy in a long time, even during the trauma, So it is that spirit is alive there.
Wow. I mean, Chanel, isn't this what we want? Isn't this what we want?
Absolutely, Brian. And that aloha spirit. And Sheila, you were just saying, he's like on a high from being able to give and to see perhaps to witness the effects of him cooking and nourishing people who, might not have food otherwise. It reminds me of just a brief situation that happened to me. You talk about this high of this aloha spirit. I was just, picking up a to-go order in a restaurant, at the carryout station, and this young lady comes in, and she had already put her order in, and she was getting ready to pay, and she said they must have told her the total, and she said, "Well, I'm going to need to take the lemonade off." And so, there's like 3 or 4 people, sitting there waiting for their food. So we're all hearing this while we're all looking down at our phones. And then, she started counting out $1 bills to pay. And before I knew anything, I sprung up to the counter. My husband's going to know that, oh God, yeah, she does things like that. I immediately sprang up to the counter and I said, and I asked her, Sheila, permission. I said, "Would you allow me to buy you lunch?" And she said, "No, I've got it." I said, "Hun," and I think I called her hun or honey, let me treat you, okay? And she did let me treat her. But clearly that was a situation where she was in need. She was probably hungry, I would have, obviously. And so just that being able to give and the way that I felt after was beyond comparable for what the little that I did. And so
Wow.
that spirit is alive and it's almost innate. Like I didn't even hesitate. I didn't even think. I was at the counter before my feet knew it had arrived. And so that opportunity, in spite of, us going through devastating times, there's still that opportunity to give and to love and to have that aloha spirit, Brian.
Yeah. As both of you guys know, Oprah Winfrey has a home on Maui. I think the city that was devastated was East Maui. I think that's correct. Southeast, and she's on the western part of the island itself. She went on her Oprah Daily Insider piece, and she was there on the island, and she videotaped herself, giving information about what was going on, but also giving a message to the people of Maui that she has come to love so much. Let's take a look at this.
You know what this week has taught me is that when you don't know what to do, you do whatever you can. I have family members who were staying here with me here in Maui. And at first we thought at the beginning of the week that we were going to have to evacuate. And then the winds changed. And then Tuesday evening, I was coming back from a hike and saw this wall of black smoke on the west side of Maui. That's behind me over there, west side. And the smoke was so thick it was covering the sun. I didn't know at that moment that that was the town of Lahaina being incinerated. And since then, I've really not known what to do. I went to visit one of the big shelters here at the War Memorial and asked people what it is they needed, and then went shopping for some things, some, basic things like towels and sheets and shampoo and other necessities. And at some point, I will make a major donation after all of the smoke and ashes have settled here and we figure out what the rebuilding is going to look like. This is going to be a long and difficult process. But spending time at the shelters, I've met so many incredible people. One guy, Julius, I said, Julius, tell me what you need, because his legs were covered in bandages where he had to run to escape the fire, and said to me that he could feel his skin popping as he was running. He got out of his car because the tires were melting and he couldn't move forward and just started to run. And when I said, tell me what you need, he said, ma'am, I need nothing. My life is now my greatest gift. I have my life. I've seen so many families who are sharing a cot, an air mattress, and have nothing else left to their names, but they are so grateful just to have each other. And there is such an incredible spirit going on in this entire community, people helping other people. And I know that long after all the camera crews are gone and the rest of the world has moved on, the rebuilding will just begin. And Hawaiians are a strong cultural people and a family-loving people. And with the help and support, you're going to see a lot of Phoenix stories rising from the ashes here, because that Aloha Spirit is real, y'all. And it has been tested this week to the ultimate max.
Woo, we're back with more of Soulivity Today, everyone. We're talking about Aloha Spirit. And this is our tribute to the residents of Maui and to the Hawaiian people in general. Ladies, as I'm looking at this video, the words that kind of stuck out to me is when the person that she was talking to said, my life is now. My greatest gift is my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I'm sitting in a sunroom and, I'm looking outside and I'm seeing the dew on the grass. And I was just thinking, when I first came in here before the show, Brian, I was just thinking how grateful I am for the little things that are all around us, that surround us 360 degrees. You've got goodness all around you.
Yeah.
And knowing that, it just really does put you back into perspective of what really is important. And when he said, yes, my life is now my greatest gift, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, you've got life, you've got breath, and it's a tremendous, tremendous gift. And I am truly grateful.
Wow. What about you, Sheila? When you hear Oprah say these words, and you could tell that she's emotional, right? She's trying to get through this because she's seeing it. She's up close and she's seeing it. What thoughts were coming to you?
Well, I think that, I was thinking about how beautiful it is that she is a voice in the world that people will listen to. And so she can bring that to us. Because it was actually that video that kind of made me realize, oh, wait, that's what Sean's been talking about. It is the Aloha Spirit. It's ingrained in the culture. And one of the beautiful things that I think about that, going back to the Aloha Spirit, is that it is not with obligation, right? And so it kind of made me think also when Dr. Chanel, you said, that the woman refused at first to let you buy her lunch. And I think that is a subtle indication of our society in which, yes, we might do things, but as a society, there's this expectation of if you take, then you're indebted somehow or unworthy.
Right.
But in
Right.
Aloha, that's not there. So, I mean, I know Dr. Chanel, you didn't have that feeling, but living in this community, she had that feeling for a moment. And I feel like that is one of the beautiful things. And I think that in most places, when we have such a severe tragedy, the community comes together. But what if we can keep Aloha Spirit in our lives, in our communities every day without tragedy?
Without tragedy.
Without tragedy. Isn't that it? There's this beautiful clip that I found that kind of embodies what happens when the Aloha Spirit kind of takes hold in communities, specifically after devastating things like things that happened with the Maui fires. Let's take a look at this. This kind of really warms my heart.
By the end of the day, Paul Fisk will lose track of how many eggs he's cracked.
2.5 cases.
He was up to 800 when we met him, and the lunch rush hadn't even started. Paul was one of the many volunteers at the University of Hawaii Maui College Training Kitchen turned emergency food production assembly line.
It feels good. It feels good to show up. It feels good to participate. And my heart is just going out to these people who are suffering.
Great hustle, team.
Taylor Ponte is a private chef here in Maui and teamed up with other local chefs and World Central Kitchen to meet a great need. Thousands of people without power, food, and in many cases, their homes and loved ones.
You know, it feels very overwhelming for sure. There's a lot of people out there hungry, and it also, I think, is very gratifying to see so many people come together to help each other out.
These meals, crafted with love and local flavors, like these cups of pork and pahole, a Hawaiian fern, will head out the door as soon as they're made.
We have Lahaina, we have churches here in town. It's going to Maui High School as well.
Well, the lunch rush just started. Lots of volunteers here, all making meals to go to people in need. By the end of the day, they will have made 9,000 meals in this kitchen. Helpers here say the Aloha Spirit in this kitchen is keeping them going, as well as all of the messages outside of these islands.
Your prayers, the love that is coming our way.
Ah, yay. Aloha. I love it. I love it. Question to both of you so that we can kind of round out this conversation today. What are some of the ways that you think that we can integrate Aloha Spirit into our daily lives and probably into our communities and our world? Sheila, I'll go to you first.
Well, I think that, everything they just said, when I was watching the kitchens cooking, I was like, oh, I wish there was more places for me to cook here. My daughter in LA, she can cook, and then they come and pick it up and they take it to the unhoused in the area. But that's an excuse on my part, right? Like, I know what ways can I do this today? And I think I want to also put in the receiving, because I think when I'm more receptive to people helping me out, then I'm changing that paradigm that is that subtlety that resists receiving and giving help. I don't know if that kind of sounded like a mixed up statement, but I feel like both sides of it. And the part of Aloha that I think sometimes people, because I try to do a lot of good things, but I have trouble receiving. And I think that that's a side that's important so that it does become without obligation both ways.
Right.
And Sheila,
Right.
it's balance, right? Balance.
Right.
So for me, Brian, it's treating, well, first of all, it's having the consciousness of the Aloha Spirit, right?
Right.
But then with every interaction you have with a person who is in front of you, who is crossing your path, that you're having an exchange, that you show that Aloha Spirit, you extend, if possible, the warmth, the acknowledgement, the validation, whatever you can, especially when you see somebody in need. And that's what I mean of staying conscious, but treat every relationship as a sacred opportunity to express more love into the world.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
That was beautiful.
yeah. Heck yeah. As we're coming up on our last break, the thing that I want to that I'm really thinking about, I'm reading this Hawaii law, the Hawaiian Spirit, and it's paragraph B. It says, in exercising their power on behalf of the people and in fulfillment of their responsibilities, obligations, and service to the people, the legislature, governor, lieutenant governor, executive officers of each department, the chief justice, associate justices, and judges of the appellate circuit and district courts may contemplate and reside with the life force and give consideration to the Aloha Spirit.
Yes. That's so incredible to me, right? I love that. Like imagining all the governments holding that space. And yeah.
And
it gives me a place to
go
ahead.
No, go ahead. It gives you a place to
imagine, right? Because sometimes when I think of it in that realm of government and power, it's hard for me to imagine what a government or democracy would look like with Aloha. But now I have that. And in having that, I can help create it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow. I'm glad we did this today. I'm really glad we did this. I think that it's important for us to remember these lessons that people that were here in these nations long before any of us got to them, right? That they had a lot of this stuff figured out. And that, things like extreme capitalism and other things came along and became the dominant force in our societies. And in many ways, those things aren't working. They're working for a few, but the masses there aren't working for. Here's an example of a people whose resilience will create a phoenix of rebirth in after a tragedy because of those traditions. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but people know that they're not alone, which I think is the most important part. Ladies, thank you for being here. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have more with Soulivity Today and some Soulivity shameless plugs. We'll be right back. Soulivity Today is brought to you by Assume control over your weight and broader health with the 80 Bites program by Physical Mind Institute.
For 50 years, we've been told, load up your plate with veggies. Load them up. Because all this spinach, look at it, all the spinach is only 100 calories. But avoid fat, because a tiny sliver of butter is also 100 calories. So spinach is good, butter is bad, right? But not today. Now we're told, put butter on everything, even in your coffee. Why? Because fat doesn't spike insulin, as carbs do. And stretching the stomach with all those veggies unbalances our digestive hormones. So eat healthy today means fat, fasting, stomach control. Right here's the stomach. Forget calories. Hormones rule, and 80 bites is the solution.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together, we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
And we're back with more of Soulivity Today. Let's get to some Soulivity shameless plugs, shall we? I love this part. This is so I get to feature you guys and everything that you guys are doing. Sheila, you've got this wonderful thing that you're doing. It's going on right now. The Consciously Awesome Gnostic Adventure. I almost want to put like some music behind it, like from like Lord of the Rings or something, because it's so wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Lord of the Rings is a great example. It is exploring all the different realms of consciousness. It's so much fun. It does our banner, which is at SheilaApplegate.com, where you can sign up, learn about it, and sign up. It does say that it started now, but it actually starts on Sunday. So there's a little leeway for you to feel it, fall in love with it, and jump in if you would like to. It'll be the adventure of your life.
Oh, fantastic. And as a companion to this, you have some soul connection sessions that you're doing?
Yep. If you're interested in just having a single session to start out and explore, that is the Soul Connection sessions, also at SheilaApplegate.com. That's a one-on-one session with me anywhere in the world via Zoom or phone. So you can get a discount by using the code SOUL23, and you'll have $44 off your first session.
Perfect. And Chanel, you have some coaching sessions as well for people who, listen, want to develop themselves personally and professionally. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Absolutely, Brian. So we're about 3 weeks away until Labor Day. And so that's when we reset and we really get serious again. And so I'm offering some back to basic reset coaching sessions over these next 2 weeks for us to really recharge, reset this last quarter of the year. December 31st will be here in a blink of an eye. But first, let's get you through to Labor Day and look at your goals and see where you're at, where you're headed, and what is getting in the way.
Perfect. Listen, I just want to remind people that, listen, if you're soul-led, please visit HawaiiCommunityFoundation.org to do some Maui, have some Maui relief where you can support them with Maui relief, I should say, in response to the devastating wildfires. You can practice some of this Aloha Spirit in your own way. Ladies, thank you so much for being here with me today. Appreciate you. We're a little bit over time, but I thought it was important that we talk about everything that's happening today. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
you. Appreciate you both really much.
Appreciate you all.
Yeah. Listen, on behalf of all of us here at Soulivity.com, I want to thank you for joining us for another Soulivity Today. We hope that you come back and join us every weekday, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast. Or you can listen to us at 8 a.m. Pacific time out on the West Coast at KMET 1490 AM radio for a rebroadcast for all of you out on the West Coast. So thanks again for being here. As always, we're wishing you a life full of passion, purpose, and high quality living today. We'll see you later. Bye.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.